Good morning, my friend. Here in the forest, where there's no path, you're alone, you can easily get lost. Sometimes it's cold here, and wild animals. Oftentimes, this is the picture of what we are going through right now. Lost and alone in a dangerous world. How can we remain strong during these troubled times? Is there something God placed to help us when times like this come? The good news is, there is. Now, the answer to this dilemma of feeling lost and alone is found in one of the 5 topics in our series we started 2 videos ago, Back to Basics. But before I tell you what this is, let me detour a little bit and rearrange these 5 topics into their proper places. Now, there is only one goal, and that is to make disciples. To make disciples is the singular command in Jesus' swan song found in Matthew 28:19 and 20. And by using a stool analogy, the 4 legs of the stool represent the 4 areas that we need to be discipled on. The first is worship. Now, the second one is today's topic, and it answers the question, how to remain strong when you feel lost and alone in a dangerous world. The answer? Fellowship. At the end of this video, I pray that you will disciple people by helping their fellowship life go through the 4 stages. To remember these 4 stages, we use the acronym BLDR, or Builder. They stand for believer, from the word baptizing; learner, from the word teaching; doer, from the word obey; and reproducer, from the phrase, everything I have commanded you. So are you ready to explore why fellowship helps you remain strong when you feel lost and alone in a dangerous world? First of all, let's define fellowship, since it's one of the most widely used but misunderstood words. Now, this word, koinonia in Greek, is used 19 times in the Bible. It means participating in someone's life to alleviate it. For example, Paul in 2 Corinthians 8:3 and 4 describes the more impoverished Macedonian churches participating in raising money for the poor in Jerusalem. It says, "For I testify, they," or the Macedonian churches, "they gave" to who? To the poor in Jerusalem, according to their means and beyond their means. And they did so voluntarily, begging us with great earnestness for the blessing and fellowship, or participating of helping the saints. So real fellowship is more than just saying, "I'll pray for you." Now, the book of James rebuked people like that. Fellowship is actually participating in the challenges of someone and sharing what you have to make the other better. Now, almost synonymous to it is the word partnership. In short, because others partner with you, you face life's challenges better. For example, Paul was encouraged and joyful even though he was under house arrest, because the churches in Philippi partnered with him, not only in sharing the gospel, but also while he was in prison. Now, Paul says in Philippians 1, 3-5, I thank my God in all my remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine for you all, making my prayer with joy because of your partnership in the gospel. And the Greek word for partnership is koinonia there, from the first day until now. Even here in prison, Paul exclaimed, you are still partnering with me. They visited him, provided his food, clothing, and other necessities. No wonder he was joyful. Look at it this way. Fellowship is like several fellows in a ship, hence fellowship. The ship represents life, and the ocean, life's challenges. Now, since many people participate and partner in rowing the ship navigates the ocean easier, faster, safer. But if a person is alone on this ship, how can he row this big ship and face the challenges of the rough ocean? So the opposite of fellowship is you are on your own. You face life by yourself, being alone, lone ranger. Result? Such person has more failures and life's frustrations. Now, both the Old Testament and New Testament give proof texts highlighting the advantages of not being alone. Now, for an Old Testament example, Ecclesiastes 4, 9-12 enumerates 4 benefits if you are not alone. The first benefit is in Ecclesiastes 4:9. It says, 2 people are better than one because they can reap more benefit from their labor. Verse 10 continues, for if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Now the third benefit is in verse 11. It says, again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Verse 12 says, and though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. There is indeed strength in numbers. Let's now turn to the New Testament. Boy, fellowship is so essential to one's well-being that aside from using the word koinonia 19 times, the New Testament further used 41 different commands using the phrase one another to describe fellowship. For example, number 1 says, be devoted to one another. Number 5 says, build up one another. Number 12 says, serve one another, etc., etc. Wow! 41 different ways to show what genuine fellowship looks like. If you are in fellowship, you are like a coal partnering, sharing, and participating with other coals to emit glow and warmth. However, if you are not in fellowship, you are like a coal separated from the other coals. Soon, you will turn dim. And just as a single coal easily burns out when removed from the other coals, you will not also last long if you are removed from true fellowship. So how do we apply this message? Let's look again at our simplified BLDR master plan here at Mosaic. For the first stage, as you become a believer, we want you to keep attending a small group. What I am about to say next will shock many of you. Genuine fellowship hardly happens during worship service. Why? Because worship services are not designed for interaction with one another. Worship service cannot fulfill these 41 commands here. So how did the early church solve the problem? They created two groups. A big group, say for worship service, and a small group for fellowship. Notice the pattern in these verses. Acts 2:46 says, day by day, continuing with one mind in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house. They were taking their meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart. They split their meeting between temple and house to house. Look again in Acts 5:42. It says, and every day in the temple and from house to house. Again, did you notice how they split into two their meetings? The verse continues, they kept right on teaching and preaching Jesus as the Christ. That's the pattern of the early church. Even when Paul went to Gentile cities where there were no more Jewish temples, he still maintained the habit of meeting in a big group via public theaters and small groups via house to house. Paul says in Acts 20:20, how I did not shrink from declaring to you anything that was profitable and teaching you publicly. For example, public theaters and from house to house. Now, I won't even discuss the many verses about house churches in the New Testament anymore. The point is, small groups are not a modern invention. It's a biblical tradition. Do you belong to a small group? Now, if you want to try a digital house church, digital because it's the COVID season, sign up here and we will send you a link. Attend one time or two times to see if it fits you. We have small groups 7 days a week in Asia, America, and other parts of the world. Would you give it a try? Now, if you are already in our small group and ready to become a learner, we now train you to start participating in the small group by using your spiritual gifts and skills. Maybe you love facilitating, or you're good at hosting, or inviting, or cooking. After that, you will go to the next level. We will train you to lead in a small group. You will lead where God has gifted you. Maybe leaving other facilitators, other hosts, other inviters, other cooks. But the ultimate goal is for you to become a rep producer. Now, in this stage, you will now find someone to train or equip. For example, if you are a facilitator, we don't want you to keep facilitating. We want you to train someone to facilitate. Or if you're a host, to train another host. Remember, the goal is not just to minister, but to make disciples. So, will you go to the next level? Who knows? You might find the strength to remain strong while in your forest. Remember, the goal is not just to minister, but to make disciples. So, will you go to the next level? Who knows? You might find the strength to remain strong while in your forest, and eventually find a path out.